Welcome back. United States of America backs Modi's doctrine on China. And just days after India officially banned 59 apps owned by Chinese tech companies, more countries are now looking at banning Chinese apps. In fact, the Trump administration is also mulling a ban on TikTok. Let's go across to our National Affairs editor, Shinjoy Chaudhary, joining us on the broadcast. Well, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, does not want to officially confirm it right now before the president himself announces it. But it's a big hint that he's dropping. He says America definitely is thinking on the same lines.
Yes, India started the ball rolling. It's not just TikTok, but 58 other apps, Chinese apps. And now the world is picking up. The Americans are saying, well, if India can do it, so can we. And very clearly, TikTok could well be banned by the Americans, and not just TikTok, perhaps several other Chinese apps. The important point here would be the economic loss that China would face. Apparently, the apps closing down in India has hurt the Chinese economy, even if it's to a small extent. But you would imagine that it would hurt the Chinese much more if all Chinese apps are closed down in America.
Well, this remark comes at a time when there is heightened tension between US and China, over national security, trade and technology.
Oh, yes, of course there is. It's unusual to have one super carrier, and a super carrier does not go alone. It goes with a battle group of destroyers, of frigates, of submarines, of tankers, and so on. Now, it's not just one carrier, super carrier, which is in the South China Sea. There are two. And the USS Nimitz and the USS Ronald Reagan are very powerful vessels. And it's a clear warning to the Chinese from the Americans. As far as India is concerned, one thing is very clear. That is, when it comes to Ladakh, India wants to deal with it by itself. India does not want any help from any other country to sort its own problems out. India has many friends, whether it's America or Russia or France or Germany or whatever. But India doesn't have an ally in that sense. And this is something that India will fight on its own and deal with it on its own. That is the Ladakh problem. But yes, India is clearly watching the situation in the South China Sea. You have two super carriers there with their battle groups. So that is not something to be sniffed at.
Several nations, in fact, are involved in a conflict with China in one way or the other, be it, encroachment as far as territories are concerned on land or the South China Sea. But it looks like nations are coming together now on the global platform in a way to corner China.
Yes, first of all, the Chinese say that, we have land borders with 14 countries and we've sorted it out with 12. It's a way of saying that, how is it that India has not been able to sort its land borders out with China? Well, look at China's maritime borders. Has Japan and China sorted out their maritime borders? Certainly not. Has Philippines? No, not at all. Has the Vietnam? Maybe not. Also, Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, all these countries have problems with the South China Sea situation. So it's not that China has sorted out all its borders except the one with India.
But it also speaks volumes about the stand or the position that India has taken. Yes, diplomatic channels are open, talks are going on at the military level, at the diplomatic level, at the special representatives level as well. On the other hand, there's this multi-pronged strategy which has been undertaken by India on building pressure on China, at the same time, implementing the call that Prime Minister gave, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And it looks like other nations are following that.
Yes, importantly, India has a multi-pronged approach, as you rightly said. You have to be strong on the ground, and that's what India has done. You have to be very adept, very nimble diplomatically. That is what India has done. And India has always made it clear that it is open for discussion with China, which is why there have been discussions at all levels, at the foreign minister level, at the SR level, at the ground military level, at the joint secretary level, at the WMCC. That is just to name four. There are many others. So those channels have always been kept open. And India has made it very clear
All right.
that India is willing to discuss, but India is willing to discuss from a position of strength.
Absolutely.
Not
Mr.
from a
Joy,
position of...
I'll have to interrupt you, but thank you very much for getting us the details. We're getting some more breaking inputs on the